The gloves are off in Chicago. President Trump just lit the fuse on Truth Social, demanding jail time for Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker. This is not political theater. Federal prosecutors are circling with 4 felony statutes that carry up to 20 years. We've got exclusive reaction from Mark Vargas of the Illinois Review. He's joining us to expose the constitutional crisis erupting in real time. ICE officers assaulted, businesses fleeing, and city leaders openly defying federal law. The charges on the table? Harboring criminals, obstructing justice, interfering with federal officers. When local officials declare war on federal government, who wins? Well, the answer might determine whether we still have one country or 50 fiefdoms. Stay locked in, folks. But did you know gold has gone mainstream? You're seeing it everywhere. Prices keep climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are watching and catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors just like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into gold IRA or you want physical coins and bars delivered directly to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from a team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metals transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it is their commitment. Visit nextnewsgold.com and claim your free wealth protection kit and see if you qualify for that silver bonus. That's nextnewsgold.com. Noble Gold is going to help you build a stronger future, or you can call that number 877-646-5347. They are standing by waiting for your call. So just earlier today, I sat down with Mark Vargas of the Illinois Review. He says that Pritzker and Johnson could face up to 20 years in prison under 4 federal statutes obstructing ICE, and Trump may invoke the Insurrection Act to restore order. Chicago is collapsing. Walgreens is fleeing. The National Guard blocked. The evidence is overwhelming. We have the full interview with Mark Vargas because Mark Vargas from Illinois Review returns as his state faces a constitutional crisis. Democrat leaders are rejecting National Guard help while Donald Trump is threatening arrests. The clips we're about to show you prove Illinois is ground zero for the battle between federal law and sanctuary insanity. Mark, who's a political insider, he's covered Illinois politics for decades. He is back. Mark, welcome back to the show. Let's start with Donald Trump's Truth Social post. This is big stuff right here. Right here, Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. J.B. Pritzker says, I will not back down in response to President Trump. What's going on here? As someone who's covered Illinois politics, how serious is this threat?
Well, Gary, this is very serious. And if federal prosecutors were to pursue charges, there are 4 statutes in particular that could land both Pritzker and Johnson between 5 and 20 years in federal prison. Let me outline those 4 statutes for you very briefly. Number 1, 8 U.S. Code 1324, harboring or shielding illegal aliens.
Oh, my God.
8 U.S. Code 1373, restricting information sharing. 18 U.S. Code 1505, obstruction of federal proceedings. And finally, 18 U.S. Code 111, interfering with federal officers. These 4 statutes present, as many legal scholars have indicated, present a real serious problem for Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson, whose policies, whose executive orders and legislation that have been signed and enacted into law prohibiting local law enforcement from assisting federal agents, federal ICE officers, could land them in real hot water legally. Just think about it, Gary. If you or I were to do any of these things as private citizens, we'd be locked up and in jail immediately. But this is real serious consequences for both Pritzker and Johnson for the very first time, and puts them in legal jeopardy.
This is this is shocking. I'm hoping that there are federal prosecutors who are willing to take this case because obviously there's this lawlessness happening. He's talking about creating ICE-free zones. He's sending executive orders. Chicago police are told to stand down while ICE officers are literally assaulted. Their lives are in danger. And now Mayor Brandon Johnson just responded to Trump's arrest threat. Let's watch his reaction.
Well, first of all, this president is unstable, unhinged, a double-minded individual that, quite frankly, is a threat to our democracy. And it's certainly not the first time that Donald Trump has called for the arresting of a black man unjustly. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay firm as the mayor of this amazing city, which was voted 9 years in a row the best big city in America, and we're going to defend all of Chicago.
We are going to defend Chicago, and we're going to play the race card at the same time. What does this tell you about how panicked Chicago Democrats are, Mark?
Well, no matter how much political spin both Johnson and Pritzker try and put to it, the issue, the numbers speak for themselves. Gary, I looked up what individual he's talking about, a black man ordering the arrest. I can't identify, nor can anyone else, specifically who Mayor Johnson is talking about. But the streets of Chicago are a war zone. It was just announced today that Walgreens is moving their location from downtown Chicago, 200,000 square feet at the old post office that once had 1,800 employees. They're now closing that down and moving to their location in the suburbs. Their lease is up in 2032, but they're deciding, let's leave right now. That's proof that the city is in chaos. The failed leadership is leading to a war zone. People don't feel safe, and employers, more importantly, don't feel safe, don't feel like the city is safe enough to even allow their employees to go to work downtown.
How many people go to work in that building? I mean, that would create a huge void in Chicago.
It's massive, and he just leads a number of companies, Citadel, Caterpillar, all that have moved out of Illinois, out of downtown Chicago because of the crime. A third of office space in downtown Chicago is vacant. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. Chicago is a total war zone, and despite the political spin coming from both Pritzker and Johnson, the reality is that the city is dangerous. Nobody feels safe, which is why both ICE agents and the National Guard have been welcomed with open arms with everyday, hardworking residents.
Well, we saw just a few weeks ago on the Magnificent Mile, we saw a Rolex store, Louis Vuitton store. All these stores are getting robbed in broad daylight. The crime is just brazen out in the open. We have this from the FBI Director Kash Patel slamming Democrats in Illinois who've spoken out against the National Guard troops. Let's check in and see, and I want to get your reaction.
That they're the one. It's the height of hypocrisy to see elected leadership here, the mayor and the governor, when they were screaming for the National Guard on January 6th, and now all of a sudden reject it when their city is literally under siege. And so I think the American people are seeing that they're the ones politicizing law enforcement, and by attacking the deployment of the National Guard, you're attacking the men and women who not only do a daytime job, but then suit up in uniform at night, get shipped out from wherever their homes are to come in here and set up perimeters and make sure people see them and they are like, wow, this is safe again. This is what we did in Washington, D.C. with the Department of Justice and DOW, and it worked.
Now, Mark, why would elected officials refuse federal assistance during a crisis like this?
It's mind-boggling. Gary, I've got the idea that I believe that the residents in the south and west sides of Chicago ought to change their name to Major Democratic Donors, because that then will trigger Governor Pritzker to deploy the National Guard. Because, again, he deployed the National Guard during the Democratic National Convention, and that was the right thing to do. But he refuses to deploy the National Guard to protect everyday residents who don't have the bank accounts that look like his wealthy billionaire Democratic donor friends. But it's true. It's mind-boggling that they want to continue to dig their heels in and say that there isn't a crime issue in Chicago when everybody on the streets, everybody in communities and neighborhoods and in downtown, they know that's not the case. Think about this. The Magnificent Mile, one of the most beautiful pieces of property, stretches of road in the country, similar to Fifth Avenue in New York City or Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. They've got massive vacancies. And the president of that association, the Magnificent Mile Association, has written letters literally begging for the city to beef up their police patrols because the high-end shoppers and tourists no longer feel safe on one of the most beautiful streets in the country.
Now, Mark, you're a high-profile individual. You've worked directly with the president in securing commutations for the former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, and then his eventual pardon, and then, of course, Roger Stone. So, I mean, you're on Newsmax, you're on Illinois Review. You're not somebody who hides in the shadows, but sometimes you work in the shadows when you get things done. It's always amazing to hear the stories. But I have to ask you this. You live in Chicago. Someone like yourself, you have to go out on the street. I mean, what's it like there when you're on the ground?
Talk to any Uber driver, Lyft driver, or taxi driver, and they'll all tell you the same thing. Either they've been held at gunpoint or they know somebody's been held at gunpoint, a fellow driver. They've also been involved and have driven by where there have been drive-by shootings. Virtually every person that lives in downtown Chicago has very similar stories. Near where I live, there have been 4 mass shootings. You hear gunshots in the middle of the night, usually between the hours of 1 and 3:30 in the morning. This is no secret for the mainstream media who like to just fly in and stay for a couple of days and give fake interviews that feed their false narratives. Live there for a month or a year, and you'll be able to see the same reality that both Uber and Lyft drivers have, taxi drivers, as well as everyday residents who have to live and experience this every single day.
It sounds like they're living in absolute terror. At least President Trump has a plan. Brandon Johnson, of course, is rejecting it. Pritzker is rejecting it. Now, of course, the call for their arrest is on the table. You just laid out the statutes. Now, you served as a civilian advisor in Iraq. What is your reaction to Chicago, the mayor there, prioritizing illegal immigrants over ICE officers who are trying to do their job?
Again, it's inconceivable that a political official, public official, whose first job of any person in office, whether Republican or Democrat or even independent, is to protect the people. And so it's mind-boggling that you'd have a governor and a mayor who side with violent criminals over law-abiding citizens, who refuse to acknowledge and address reality, and instead they use political spin in order to boost their own profiles and resort to name-calling. Listen, if Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson don't want to secure the city of Chicago and the war zone that it is, and I've been to war zones. I was in Iraq 14 times as a civilian. I know what it looks like, I know what it smells like, I know what a war zone sounds like. Chicago is a war zone, and if they refuse to protect the people, then President Donald J. Trump will, and he is.
Now, as editor of the Illinois Review, you've watched the state deteriorate under Democrat control. It seems like they have a stranglehold on the state. But is this the breaking point where federal intervention becomes necessary and the people recognize it and change the state's control structure?
Absolutely. And Gary, I've got my finger in the pulse in some of these communities in the south and west sides of Chicago. I've spoken to several Democratic political operatives who are right now out getting petition signatures to get their candidates on the ballot. They're all coming back to me with the exact same observation. And what is that? That the everyday residents in the south and west side of Chicago, particularly black and brown residents, they refuse to sign the petitions of Democratic candidates. Why? Because they know the reality. They know the difference between political spin and reality. And so I believe we're seeing a turning point in America. This is a realignment of politics spearheaded by President Donald J. Trump. When you have federal ICE agents, when you have the National Guard from Texas out on the streets in Chicago, the residents, the visitors, the tourists, the moms and dads, the children, they automatically feel safer. And so as a result of that, the Democrats' numbers are plunging. And I believe that Chicago is a city that could potentially flip red.
Now, Mark, you're a political insider, and of course, we're in the middle of a shutdown. The Democrats are playing games. Before we go, I do want to get your reaction to Nancy Pelosi. She was just embarrassed on CNN. Let's listen.
Democrats, I understand what you're saying about where the differences are, and they are very big. They are voting yes on what we say here in Washington, a clean CR, a bill to keep the government running for 7 weeks, and Democrats are voting no, and for the reasons you just said. So how are they shutting down the government?
First of all, it isn't a clean CR.
Okay.
So let's not stipulate to that. It's not a clean CR.
What do they have in it?
Going into that. The point is,
I understand what you're CR. At the same time, we have air traffic controllers who are not showing up to work. Our airports, our skies above us are a big question. What is your take on Pelosi here claiming it's not a clean CR in this latest Democrat disaster?
First of all, anyone whose net worth, like Nancy Pelosi's, has increased by over $200 million since 2008. It's estimated now that she has a $300 million net worth when her salary maintains the same at about $200,000 a year. First of all, you lose all credibility when your personal net worth increases by that much off of the backs of everyday people. Secondly, Democrats do not want a clean funding bill, even though they've done this in the past. Why? Because as it's been revealed on your show here, Gary, on Next News Network, that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democrat leader, has been negotiating and working with George Soros funded groups for the last several months. It doesn't matter what the Republicans put together in terms of a negotiation. The Democrats aren't just going to sit by and participate and cooperate. Why? Because their strings are being pulled and controlled by George Soros and all of his billions of dollars that these Democrat politicians like Nancy Pelosi rely on for their reelection efforts year after year after year. So this isn't about reopening the government. This is about putting as much hurt as they can on everyday hardworking Americans, on our first responders, and on our military, so that they could prove a point that George Soros first, America last.
It's disgraceful, Mark, and we're tracking it closely here. We've seen government shutdowns in the past, but and we've always emerged from them. But there's always been pain. How much pain do they intend to inflict? How much longer can this go?
That's a great question, Gary. And, the Democrats have inflicted so much pain over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. Pain to the checkbook, pain to our southern border, pain to major cities, to the residents and tourists of major cities that are Democrat controlled because of high crime and violence and migrants. This isn't a Democrat Party that's focused on the American worker. This is a Democrat Party that's focused on illegal aliens, many of them violent and dangerous and vicious criminals who'd belong in jail, not getting free health care, not getting free room and board, not getting free food, not getting free clothing. Again, the government, the Democrat Party has shut down the federal government so that our military doesn't get paid, our first responders don't get paid, critical services for grandma and grandpa, they don't get the services they need. Why? Because they've prioritized illegal aliens over everyday Americans. They want illegals to have health care along with everybody else. Again, this is illegals first, America last. We're watching this play out on live television every single day.
Now, another point, we're seeing how this Democrat shutdown is affecting people all across the country. With respect to the air traffic controllers and others, I mean, we just found out that the White House said that the WIC program is going to proceed. Quite literally, how long can we last, Mark? That's the question.
That's a very good question. I believe that just earlier today that they've reported that O'Hare Airport is going to face significant delays because of the government shutdown, one of the busiest airports in the world. Again, who knows how long this is going to last? I know that the president and the speaker and the Senate majority leader are anxiously trying to negotiate and bring a resolution to this government shutdown. But let's be clear, the Democrats have no interest whatsoever to negotiate. They have no interest in wanting to reopen the government. They'll be forced to, Gary. The Democrats will be forced to come to the negotiating table and to work with the president and the Republicans when they see that their poll numbers have tanked even further. They're proving yet again why over 65% of Americans are fed up with today's Democratic Party.
Okay, let's flash back to the 80s. Ronald Reagan, he was dealing with something similar with air traffic controllers. They walked off the job. He said, fine, you can walk off the job. Now you're fired, and they were banned from ever holding a federal position again. President Trump, he is actually, in a sense, he's threatening the very same thing. They're going to furlough all these government employees, and they're basically going to drain the fat from this government. I mean, it sounds like this whole thing is going to backfire on the whole establishment draining the swamp itself. What are your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. And President Trump has showed an example of he's always playing 3D chess while everybody else are playing checkers. Point number one, He's wanting to deploy the National Guard into Democratic-controlled cities where crime is so high. The Democratic leaders say no, like in Chicago. So what does he do? He deploys ICE. He knows that ICE is going to be assaulted. So then he deploys the National Guard in order to protect ICE agents. So at the end of the day, the National Guard are already in Chicago. As it relates to your question specifically, President is using this government shutdown to focus on cutting the unnecessary fat in our federal workforce, cutting the unnecessary fat in federal programs. And the question is, if an employee is not deemed essential to show up to work during the government shutdown, then why are we paying them 65 days a year, giving them a pension and the best health care that could be afforded to any American in the United States? This is a perfect example to start trimming the fat. And that's exactly what President Trump is going to do. And you could guarantee that these programs, these port projects that the Democrats have wanted to fund and have funded for so long, they're going away now thanks to this government shutdown and thanks to President Trump's leadership.
Okay, one last question. I know you've got to go, but I have to ask you this because you hear all the things that are going on in the White House. Your ears are always open. You're talking to a lot of people there. Last couple days, in the last 48 hours, we've heard President Trump invoke the Insurrection Act from the Oval Office. What are you hearing with respect to the application of that law?
Well, President Trump, just as you know, he doesn't drop things by accident. Everything is deliberate. And there's no question in my mind that he's using the word insurrection on purpose, because these Democrat leaders, as we're seeing play out in real time in Illinois, for example, and in Chicago, despite the realities, they refuse to send in to call for help and secure the streets and make them safer again. But so by using insurrection, it gives President Trump the authority, should he use it. And this hasn't been used since 1992, by the way. Yeah. President George H.W. Bush was the last president to invoke the Insurrection Act after around the riots surrounding the Rodney King issue. President Trump is using this language because he's sort of leading the witness and saying, at the end of the day, I could invoke the Insurrection Act because if Democratic leaders refuse to take care and protect their own citizens, then I will, and I have a responsibility, and I'll use every resource at my disposal, including the Insurrection Act, to secure our cities and make our residents feel safe again.
Mark, thank you for joining us. There's a reason they call it Chirac, and looks like we may be heading into Chapocalypse now. Mark, thank you for exposing the chaos in Chicago.
Thank you.
Mark Vargas has exposed the truth. Illinois Democrats would rather protect criminals than ICE officers, reject National Guard help than admit failure, and panic on camera than enforce the law. Trump's demand to jail Chicago's mayor and Governor Pritzker isn't hyperbole. It's accountability for officials who've abandoned their oath of office. Make sure you visit IllinoisReview.com for Mark's continued coverage of Illinois' implosion under Democrat rule. When elected officials choose sanctuary policies over citizen safety, federal intervention isn't just justified, it's necessary. Oh, and we are not done yet, my friends. We have breaking news out of Broadview, Illinois. This just in, Texas National Guard troops are now being deployed to the Broadview, Illinois facility tonight to provide security. Provided by Governor Greg Abbott, red states can band together and defend ICE against left-wing militants.
Let's get to breaking news at this hour. The Texas National Guard troops in Illinois are expected to be deployed to the Chicago suburbs tonight. The ABC station in Chicago is reporting troops will be providing security to an ICE processing center in the village of Broadview that is just outside of the city of Chicago. Now, this comes just one day after the Guard arrived at a training facility in Elwood, about an hour southwest of the city's downtown area. Again, this is a developing story. You can watch for another update coming up on World News.
Oh, and we have more updates here. We don't need you. Illinois Governor Pritzker, fearing President Trump, will deploy the military to the polls to confiscate ballot boxes and steal the upcoming votes. That's Governor Pritzker. This is the rhetoric that is infecting his brain due to Trump derangement syndrome.
Of the yelling at them. But they think they can get people used to the idea. And next year, I fear that what they're going to do is deploy these folks eventually to polling places and say they're protecting the vote. Donald Trump knows that without shenanigans and without these breaches of the Constitution, that he's going to lose the Congress. And if he loses, he's going to immediately, in the aftermath of the election, do what he said he might do in 2020, which is use the military to confiscate the ballot boxes and count the votes, claiming that there's fraud. Remember, he's called up all 50 states' election data to the Department of Justice because they want to review all 50 states for fraud.
Oh, yeah, because there was fraud in 2020, fat boy. Now we have this. People are following ICE vehicles in Chicago, honking their horns and yelling out to make sure that immigrants are warned about their impending arrival. What could possibly go wrong? Remember, just a couple days ago, we had an ICE vehicle rammed by someone in Chicago. CPD was told to stand down. And now they're chasing ICE around the city. And now we have the National Guard about to descend onto Broadview. Now, you've seen the footage from Broadview. Broadview is where they have been, the Antifa, the leftist agitators, the terrorists have been surrounding that building, preventing them from doing their job. Now, National Guard is going to be there. And now you see this. What in the hell? It is absolute madness in Chicago. 20 years in prison is what Pritzker and Johnson are now facing. And here is President Trump just a couple hours ago at that round table he held at the White House talking about Chicago.
Officials, I've seen the law, and when you have a group of people where the police call off the safety for ICE officials, I've understood that, and I've read it today in numerous journals, that that's illegal. What they did is I guess it was ICE, Christie, right? They were under threat, and the police were helping beautifully, and it was fine. And then all of a sudden, a woman was on the line saying, everybody, move back, get out, get out. And they were given an order by the second person in the police department, and the governor knew about it, the mayor knew about it. I understand that's a criminal offense. I've seen the law.
A criminal offense, as Mark Vargas just detailed exactly what that criminal defense is. Nick Sortor at the White House today, speaking directly to President Trump. Listen to this.
So when you have, based on what comes out of the garbage standing over here, that you guys are deporting U.S. citizens. So that's what's causing all these problems.
So when you have a governor like Pritzker in Chicago, where you have Illinois, which is in a lot of trouble, Chicago's there, potentially great city again. It's not great now, but it could be great again. That's why we have to get there soon, because eventually you can't do that. What makes a man like that say that things are wonderful? Why doesn't he say, we love that President Trump is going to come and help us clean up Chicago and make it safe again, as opposed to fighting us and pretending that there weren't 50 murders and 200 shootings and all of that? Why is that? Go ahead, Nick.
To spite you. To spite the administration. That's simply what it's about at this point. Because, if you go and talk to some of these citizens, like I'll use Portland as an example again, because I've been there for so long now. You talk to the neighbors that live in the apartments next door to the ICE facility. There are veterans with PTSD that live there, and they're here all night long, screaming, fireworks being lit off by these rioters, children crying, because they, can't sleep at night and they're scared of all the noise outside, and they can't leave. They can't. They got a lease. You can't just leave. These people aren't wealthy individuals, And that's one of the major problems here. And these people are afraid to come out and speak out based on what comes.
They're doing it to spite President Trump. They would rather let their cities burn. Now, here we have Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton says if Pritzker is arrested, she'll pick up right where he left off. Well, guess what? Then you're going to be arrested next, honey.
Back against, listen, if Donald Trump thinks that by arresting Governor J.B. Pritzker that this fight is over, he is sorely mistaken, because he's going to have to come through me next, and I'm going to pick up right where J.B. left off. Illinois stands united in fighting back against Donald Trump's power grab. Listen, if Donald Trump thinks that by arresting...
That's a joke. Make me a sandwich, honey. Here's Tom Homan shredding the highly incompetent J.B. Pritzker.
Doesn't Trump have a... And he hates Trump more than he cares about the safety of Chicago.
Yep.
They don't want President Trump to have a win on this. Because what we're proving every day out there is the last 4 years under Joe Biden, historic levels of illegal immigration, historic number of Americans dying from fentanyl coming across an open border, historic number of women and children being sex trafficked. As we're out there removing these public safety threats, we're destroying their whole game they've had for the last 4 years, saying the border was secure, and they're not releasing unvetted aliens. We're proving them wrong every day, and they can't stand the truth. So again, President Trump is committed to American people to make this country safe again. I'm proud to work for President Trump. We can continue doing this. And like I said months ago, we will flood the zone in every sanctuary city. We're not going to stop. We're going to make this community safer, with or without their help. And
just go and arrest Pritzker and Johnson already, please. That is my prayer. Pritzker is panicking because he's absolutely powerless against Trump and nothing and can do nothing to stop him. Listen to him. He says he's a wannabe dictator.
And I want to go to Illinois now, where the governor is standing by with Jacob Soboroff, a governor who has been fighting against having federal troops come into his cities and the environs, and as a result has heard it said by the president of the United States that he should be jailed. Jacob, let me throw it over to you and the governor.
Chris, thank you so much. Governor J.B. Pritzker, thanks for joining us live on MSNBC.
All right, Jake, we're good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. You know as well as I do, the President of the United States in the last 24 hours called for you to be imprisoned. I want to give you an opportunity. We've seen your reaction on social media, but I want to hear what you have to say back to the President of the United States.
Well, let's start with the idea that this is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that, who is threatening to jail me. I got to say, this guy's unhinged. He's insecure. He's a wannabe dictator. And there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me. So come.
I don't think that'll be a problem, JB.
Come and get me.
What does that mean exactly, Governor?
He just said, come and get me. He just said, come and get me. President Trump, you're watching right now. I know you watch the show. Please, he just told you. He told you what to do. You got this, man. You got this.
Believe that he would follow through or that he'll chicken out. He basically said the same thing to Governor Gavin Newsom when I was with him at the height of the raids in the Los Angeles area. Governor Gavin Newsom is walking free in the streets of California. You think that he'll chicken out, or would he ever arrest you?
Well, you know the expression, Trump always chickens out, taco. And I got to say, he can't arrest.
Yeah, he knows that word. Taco. Extra meat.
We've done nothing wrong here. And very importantly, it's Donald Trump that is breaching the Constitution, breaking the law. We're taking him to court, and I believe we're going to win.
Right now.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to fight another court case pretty soon there, Chubby. All right, what else have we got here for you? Okay, 6 hours ago, the White House posted this. An incompetent mayor, a delusional governor, Chicago in chaos, and the American people are paying the price. Chicago doesn't need political spin. It needs help. And then they posted this video. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks pretty crazy.
Drugs, Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. We have a governor that refuses to admit he has problems. Everybody knows how bad it is. This open borders nightmare flooded our country with fentanyl and with people that shouldn't be here, some of the worst people on earth, and illicit drugs decimated American communities and left us with the largest law enforcement challenge in our country's history.
Residents say They have had enough.
We need to invite President Trump in. We invite the National Guard in. You know, we've had 254 deaths in 233 days. And for anyone in our community to say people are safe, that is an outright lie.
They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. We don't want to lose Chicago. We're going to lose Chicago. We want to save these places. We're going to lose them. We're not going to allow this kind of savagery to destroy our society anymore. We're stopping it, doing one by one.
The White House putting them all on notice. Dude, that was like a movie trailer, but it's real life, guys. Tom Homan to Governor Pritzker.
Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state. The same President Trump did in Los Angeles, the same he did in Washington, D.C., the same we're doing in other cities. We're there to make the city safer. And you think Governor Pritzker and the Mayor Johnson, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. Remove public safety threats from the public. We're there to do that. And we're not going to stop doing it. They can stand aside and watch us do it, but we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow. And you know, thank God for Governor Abbott. He's sending troops out there to help protect ICE officers who have over 1,000% increase in attacks. So President Trump's doing the right thing. We're going to continue doing the right thing. We are not stopping what we're doing. Governor Pritzker should be...
We are not stopping. All gas, no brakes. Here we have the Oregon National Guard. The general says if the Oregon National Guard were to be deployed, they would be instructed under his leadership to protect the protesters and not ICE. Let's hear.
Facility. And so by serving in this mission, they will be protecting any protesters at the ICE facility. And so...
Oh, is that right? What else have we got here? Man, it's a smorgasbord tonight. Mayor Brandon Johnson alleges that it would not be legal for ICE to arrest illegal aliens who are sleeping peacefully in their communities. They write there are no laws prohibiting the arrest of illegal aliens just because they're sleeping.
Agencies.
And what are you going to do?
Well, just this past week, I signed another executive order. We have 3 sweeping executive orders to make sure that the fundamental right to protest is intact. We're making sure that people know their rights, and all of our sister agencies and city departments are working in accordance with the local ordinance. And then now public property that the city owns, ICE cannot prepare its weapons on school parking lots. ICE cannot prepare to disappear families in the parking lots of libraries. That's not what these public accommodations are for. We literally had a South Side neighborhood under siege with Black helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters, where individuals who were sleeping peacefully in their communities had masked, armed men stick long guns in their faces.
Oh, I mean, you mean the Tren de Aragua gang members who took over the vacant apartment complex? Yeah. Are we talking about the same people here, Brandon?
This is not the type of America that our ancestors fought hard to create. This is a fundamental attack on our democracy. It's not about immigration. It's not about safety. It's about authoritarianism. And we're going to push back, and we're going to defend Chicago and all American cities against this tyrant.
Oh, good luck with that there, buddy. Because the arrest is on the table. FBI Director Kash Patel, he says, when I was there today with Todd, we learned the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members.
100 shootings. Taking the juggernaut that is demolishing the weaponization of law enforcement and bringing it to places like Chicago. When I was there today with Todd, we learned that the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members. That's right. You heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings this year alone, 360 homicides. When politicians choose to side with those metrics and not their citizenry, thank God we have President Trump and this Department of Justice and this FBI going in there and crushing violent crime. And President Trump sent us into these cities quietly to set the stage, to set up for the National Guard, to see the success that we saw in Washington, D.C., in Memphis. The FBI has been leading the charge in every single one of these streets because we know how to gather ground level intelligence, and we know how to put handcuffs on the bad guys, and we know that we have the backing of this administration. And most importantly, the agents at the FBI know that they have the backing of the American people and their government.
Hell yeah. We are backing you. I'm not sure what this woman's about to say, but
I'm 10.
Tagged me in this video. Just give it a quick look.
So I'm gonna need you to explain it to me like I'm 10. I want you to really break this down to me like I'm 10 years old and tell me why ICE agents zip tying black babies in Chicago, because I can't for the life of me understand why this happened. Why was this necessary? These are...
So people on the left right now are using that photo of that little boy and that guy. They're saying that it's an ICE agent arresting a child. But here's the original video.
Go Punky!
Okay. Oh. It's a father and son. Wow. Taken totally out of context. Unbelievable. And that's what they're doing. Yep. Now you know.
Of me and my son playing cops and robbers. Literally, this is us.
That's just the father and son playing together. They're playing cops.
And they're using it out of context. ICE and Border Patrol are patrolling the Chicago River in downtown Chicago. The Chicago River is still green. St. Patrick's Day is months and months away. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson needs to be arrested. This news segment proves it. Brandon Johnson is leading a rebellion against the federal government in response to legal deportation operations. Seditionists. Here he is on CNN.
Is unstable, unhinged, a double...
Are designed to protect federal facilities and officers, and there have been some protesters around Chicago that have blocked access to the ICE facility in Broadview. Does that prove that this mobilization is needed?
No. In fact, this president is working to... Look, from the very beginning, we...
How are you going to spin this one, pal?
Always knew that sending in the federal agents was a pretext to the National Guard. His ultimate goal is to send the military into American cities, which there aren't people who are signing up to serve and protect our democracy abroad to be then unleashed on the cities that are actually raising them. What we have seen is a full escalation from these federal agents. And a man was shot and killed. Another person...
Okay, Brandon. Yeah. Spin it any way you like. You're not even answering the question. President Trump, White House, posting this. President Trump, my goal is to stop crime in America. Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson. A picture of them crying. You got to love it. Nick Sortor, President Trump calls for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson to be jailed for their failure to protect ICE officers. Sidney Powell writes, you're breaking federal law, Pritzker. You should be cuffed and hauled out of your office. The arrests are... now we know the crimes. Mark Vargas just revealed it for us. This is only the beginning of Chipocalypse now. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Now, this is not just another political spat. It's Constitution versus chaos. When elected officials openly defy federal law and order police to stand down while ICE agents are attacked, we've crossed into dangerous territory. Mark Vargas laid out the cold, hard facts. 4 federal statutes, 5 to 20 years, and a paper trail that leads straight to City Hall and the governor's mansion. Chicago's bleeding businesses, Walgreens pulling out of a 200,000 square foot downtown facility. The Magnificent Mile's become a war zone. Residents live in terror while their leaders play sanctuary games. Trump is not bluffing. He is drawing a line. Either we're one nation under law or we're not. So here's the question. Should mayors and governors who actively obstruct federal law enforcement face prison time? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you're fired up, check out our merch shop, link down below, and show the world you stand for law and order.